to say is we're going to bring back some of those days right here live on Talk Show on the Go with Joey Medina, the one and only Joey Medina. Thank you, Joey, for being
Oh,
here.
thanks for having me. This is fun. You know, it's funny. I know I've always known you've done your show and stuff, but I've never been yet to your place, and I love it. Your studio is great.
Oh, God, that means so much coming
Yeah,
from
it's
someone who
really,
has a
really nice.
radio history like you. How did you
Yeah.
get involved in radio?
By mistake. Actually, the first time I got into radio, they were always by mistake, except for the very last one. Was I went in as a guest, as a comedian, as we all do, right? We go
Right.
to all these talk shows and morning shows, and they liked me and they asked me to stay on. And the first time I did it was in Arizona when I first started doing stand up. The money was horrible. It was like nothing, minimum wage. And then when I got the morning show here in L.A., the money was good enough where I bought my mom a house.
Wow.
So it got better. But I got it by mistake. I did a project called Latinpalooza,
That's
and
right.
it was a great stand-up special. And I was doing what they call a radio tour. I was on the phone on radio stations. I was traveling to radio stations. Going to radio stations. So there was a new radio station in L.A. called Latino 96.3, and they asked me to come, I had a publicist ask me to go on to promote Latinpalooza. I'm like, yeah, of course. So I went on. I did it. I did great because I'm always doing interviews on radio, so I know how to do radio well. And I didn't know this, but during that time, they were looking at like Gabriel Iglesias. They were looking at Carlos Mencia to be on the morning show, and they wanted a comedic element, a Latin comedic element. So I went on there, and I was just myself, and I killed it.
Of course.
And so all of a sudden, my publicist called me up later that same day and said, "Hey, listen, they want you to go back tomorrow." And I'm like, "That's perfect. Let's do it, right?" Because I just want to promote Latinpalooza. And then my car breaks down. My car
Oh,
bust.
God.
I think the engine block broke or something. I'm like, "Whoa, my God, this is so." So I had to cancel. And then I thought that was it. Then he calls me up again. He goes, "Hey, still want you to keep coming in." And I'm like, "All right, hey, I'll promote it." So I went back, and then I noticed it was a little different. When I went back, it wasn't so much of an interview anymore. I was kind of just part of the show, hanging out with them. And I'm like, "Hey, I'll take it, whatever."
Right.
So after the show, the guy who was on the show was telling me, "Hey, I think they're looking at you to be on the show. They like the way you sounded and this and that." And I'm like, "I'm not interested." Because I didn't know I thought it was the same kind of money I did when I
Right.
was working in Tucson radio. I'm like, I'm not gonna make minimum
Minimum wage.
wage, right? I'm
Right.
like, I'm good. I'm traveling. I'm doing good. I don't need to. So then, I had a lawyer at the time, um, and he started working on the deal. And then one day I kept on going in for like a week, almost 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden they made me an offer. And I was with my other friend Renee Garcia, another comedian, and we were like at Knott's Berry Farm, and we're online to get in. And then my lawyer calls me up and he gives me the number. He goes, "Hey, they want to offer you this." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And I hung up. I'm like, "Holy shit, I hit the lottery."
Yeah,
I'm like-
right?
and then he calls me up 5 minutes later. He goes, "It was more. It was like extra money." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm
It's
down."
beautiful.
But I'll be honest, I was so scared because I told him, this is what I thought. As soon as I got the job, I said, "This is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and it could be the worst." Because when
Takes
you
off the
make
road.
when you make a lot of money and it goes away like that, it hurts. It hurts.
How many women?
Oh, the women. And the thing is, I had a lot of women, but you know what? I was too tired. I was doing a damn morning show, waking up at 4 in the morning. I was falling asleep at 6:30, man. I was like, I would be on dates and I would literally start falling asleep, and I would have to let the girl drive. Like it was just, I couldn't. Like I had to pull over a whole bunch of times because I was living, maybe about 45 minutes away from the radio station, so it was kind of far. And then with LA traffic, obviously, it's
Forget
horrible.
about it.
So I would literally some days just pull over and fall asleep in my car, then go home to change and take a shower, and then get back to the radio station. So I ended up getting another apartment next to the radio station. So I had a house, I had an apartment, and then I had my mom's house. And I was like, there was still enough money. I'm like, I'll do it. But then when the economy went to hell
Yeah.
in 2008 or whatever it was, one of the things that people don't understand, like car dealerships are the biggest money makers for radio stations. Because they,
always
Toyota,
advertising.
Toyota gave me a free car, to a lease. They gave me a free lease,
So,
it was
yeah,
convertible,
nice.
brand new convertible. I'm like, all right, awesome. Plus I had my car, and then but I'm like, this is great. But what happened was, once the money wasn't there, because I was the second highest paid person in that station.
Wow.
Or for the company. The first person was that Kukui guy.
Right.
He was making like $2 million a year, right? He was doing great. And they didn't let him go, but they gave him a demotion, and then they let we had a brand new general manager, and they let him go. And I knew it was for the money, and so I told my morning team, I go, I'm next, man. They're gonna fire me. And our ratings were up. Our ratings were tied with Big Boy. We were doing great. And then and they go, no, a rating. I'm like, doesn't matter, man. It's about the money. It's about the money. And all of a sudden, the general manager calls me in. He goes, Joey, man, I hate to tell you this. I'm like, damn it. I'm like, all right, cut my salary in half. He goes, no, you just got to let it go. And they just hired somebody like for $10 an hour to come on take my place, right? But
nobody did it like you. And
no, it wasn't that. Yeah, because I got a good severance pay. I was
going to say.
Yeah, I had a really good severance pay.
You're big, Joey. I mean, I'm going to tell you this. I have given Jean hell about Joey Medina for the longest time. And the one thing I love about Joey is that he's a Puerto Rican. Not that there's anything going on with me and other Spanish people, because I know I'm woke. As we all know, todo cree que soy boricua. And Joey got me the first time with his joke that I'll let him say, because I've said it so many times quoting you. But why did you take up boxing?
Oh, well, boxing is... Well, you want me to do the joke? Well, because, I married a Latin woman. I had to defend myself. So,
that's not what he said when I met him. He said I was dating Puerto Ricans, and I screamed.
No, but it's, yeah. But it's so funny. Like, I was so poor when I was a kid. Like, I would literally, in the wintertime in New York, it was freezing. Like, I didn't have gloves.
You socks, right?
No, I used my boxing gloves. Like, I would go to school wearing boxing gloves.
So you were involved in boxing at such
a kid, I was 12. I think I started.
Where are you from in New York?
From the Bronx.
I didn't know
Bronx,
that.
Yeah. So it was funny. So there was a point where I would bring boxing gloves I would wear them on the bus, city bus. We didn't have a school bus.
Can you imagine?
That's television, right? And then we were in a city bus. And then here I am with freaking boxing gloves like a moron.
I had to wear socks and I couldn't find mine.
Socks, well, whatever works, man.
Hey,
when it's cold, it's cold.
Carry a hot-boiled egg. Oh my God! It's getting colder here. I've noticed, and I'm cold. And people say, "How can you be cold? You're from New York." And I say, "In New York, we wear clothes when it's cold."
Right.
I'm not prepared for this.
Yeah, that's the bad thing about California. You leave your house, and it's nice and warm. Then all of a sudden it's cold, and you're like, you got to keep extra jackets in your car. You got to have like a survival kit. Like, it's just crazy, man.
Do you ever think about going back to New York?
Yeah,
right?
I love New York a lot.
You do, right, Joey?
I love New York. It's great. It's beautiful. The first time I really appreciated New York was the first time I performed there, and what had happened was, so I get booked at Caroline's Comedy Club, which is like the Madison Square Garden of comedy clubs in New York, and it's right there on Broadway. It was great. So usually when I go to New York, I always just go to my mom's house in Jersey. So
we're in Jersey. I don't mean to ask.
She lives near Hightstown, which is near Princeton area. So when I got booked at the club, they gave me a hotel downtown, and I'm like, I'll stay there. I'm not gonna go visit my mom during that time. I'll stay here. So I remember leaving my hotel room like at midnight one time, and it was packed, and I'm like, this is why people come to New York. It's fucking amazing. I've never been there at midnight. Like, maybe, when I was a kid, I went there to do something or go somewhere. But this is like, I felt like a tourist for the first time in New York. And I'm like, I love this place. It's beautiful. It's the most amazing city in the world. And I've been everywhere.
I've been to
London. London is close to-ish, kind of, like an old school, but not really. Chicago is closer. And I've been other places around the world. But New York City.
all over, man.
New York City is the greatest city in the world.
And I'm a Jersey girl, and I still love New York.
Yeah. Where in Jersey?
Patterson.
Oh, okay.
That's why I had to get out.
My first paid gig was in Patterson, New Jersey.
With whom? Lean On Me?
No, it was at a nightclub. And do you know Tina Graham? Do you know who Tina Graham is?
Yeah.
Tina booked me on it. And it was my first paid gig ever.
How do you know Tina Graham?
Oh, okay. Here's another story. So what had happened was I started doing.
She's from Patterson.
Yeah, my comedy career started from in Tucson, Arizona, when I was living in Tucson, right after boxing, and I started doing some open mics, and that's all I did, open mics. But so during that time, I made a comeback, and I wanted to fight again. So I went to New York to live with my original boxing trainer,
Who is?
Joe DeGuardia, who's passed away, but he's a great
I
guy.
heard, sorry.
And it's funny, like my life with him is kind of like the Bronx Tale.
Wow.
Like he was this dude who ran the neighborhood, the Italian guy ran the neighborhood, and had his thing.
The real guy too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I hope you have a story about that.
Oh yeah, and I have a lot of stories, but yeah. So I went to New York to train, and while I was there, I wanted to do some open mic. But there used to be a TV show called Uptown Comedy Club, if you remember that one.
Yes.
Yeah. So and Tina Graham was the booker on that show, so I write them, right? Because it was, I think, even before the internet. So I wrote them.
Yes.
And they let me come on to perform on the show. Not the taping. There was no taping, but it was a real comedy club called the Uptown Comedy Club on 125th Street. So I went over there. I did my 8 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And she liked me, and she said, "Hey, you want to do this booking? It's $50." And I never got money ever for comedy.
Ever, right?
So when she said $50, she might as well said $5 million, because I was like, "What?" She goes, "It's Patterson, New Jersey, da 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 da." You know, so I got a ride out there, but I needed a ride back. And she said, "Oh, one of the guys from here will take you back. He's going to be there, and he lives in the Bronx too. His name's Tracy Morgan." So
oh
we
my
know,
God.
but this was before he was Tracy Morgan, right? So anyway, so I go. So check this out. So I go do the show. Oh, what a horrible show I had. It was a all black club. It was
In
a nightclub.
Patterson?
Yeah, it was a nightclub. And then all of a sudden, MC comes up, stops the music. All right. And he's cursing and he's dogging everybody. He's ripping everybody a new thing. And I'm like, oh shit. And back then, I did it like a cholo, because I needed to wear glasses because I was very shy. So I had to wear dark glasses. So I'm like, I can't wear dark glasses. Look stupid. I can't. What could I say? I'm blind. That's not gonna be like but that's too much of a commitment, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll wear the white glasses. So I'll do this character like a cholo, so I did that. So I go up first, Patterson, New Jersey, right? East Coast, all black club as a cholo, which they don't even know what that is.
Right.
And then I would have to say 30 seconds to a minute. The boos start happening.
I know.
The MC comes up and grabs my mic. All right, thank you. And I'm like, I put my head down. I walked off stage, and Tracy was there, and I go like this. I go, man, I'm not gonna take the money. I don't want the money, man. I bombed. Whatever. He goes, this is show business. You showed up. You take the money.
That's right.
That's what he said.
That's right.
That's what he said. So I took the check, a $50 check, and I needed it. And then that was it. That was my first gig. But anyway, that was Tina Graham. And Tina Graham I ran into on in Clubhouse again.
We have to find her.
Yeah, I hit her up, and we were in the same room, and I brought up that story, and she goes, "Oh, I
Did she
remember
laugh?
that." Yeah.
We should have her on. She's done a lot.
She's
for
great.
So many
She's
people.
so many people.
We have to tell them who Tina Graham is.
Tina Graham she's booked Def Comedy Jam. She was the booker for Uptown Comedy Club. She was the booker for Bad Boys of Comedy. There's another show I did.
Kings of Comedy.
Yeah, she's booked everything. She's an icon in the comedy world, especially on the East Coast. And she's an amazing woman.
And that's the best part.
Yeah.
And it's strange that all roads lead to Patterson, because Mike Marino always says, I hate Patterson, and when I'm there and I got somebody who doesn't laugh, I tell them, when you come out of the brownstone tonight, I want you to make a right-hand turn. Okay? That's where you go. Don't make a left, make a right. Because right is Patterson and left is Wayne. Have you performed at the brownstone yet?
No.
I have to have you come in for one of those.
Oh, okay.
So the brownstone is the home of the Housewives of New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Right, and they're from Patterson. And Lou Costello was from Patterson, and his granddaughter was a guest here. Her name is Marky Costello. I don't know if you've ever crossed paths with her, but she books hosts.
Oh, okay.
And I was thinking about you when I heard that Bobby Chaz was doing something. Is he hosting something? I was thinking he's not as funny as you. Yeah, he's doing something. I don't know if it's ESPN, but talking about the boxing world, why I always talk about Joey Medina is because a friend of mine, Tommy Marola, who's back with us now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, for about 2 years now. Tommy, Jersey. Anyway, that got uncomfortable. But I used to follow Tommy Marola, who was the only guy to knock out Bobby Chaz, I believe. But then that's how I found out about you. And it was a cable station back then in New Jersey. It was New Jersey Cable. Mm-hmm. You were doing your little thing. But finally, I'm going to ask you the big question then. What makes boxing go into comedy?
I've always admired comedy and loved comedy the same way like a sports fan loves the sport but doesn't play it, right?
Right.
And I would listen to albums back in the day, right? I would listen to Red Fox. I would listen to Eddie Murphy. I would listen to George Carlin, to anyone I could listen to. Richard Pryor, obviously, and even like National Lampoon, Cheech and Chong. I would listen to all that comedy
please.
stuff. So I always loved comedy, but I was really shy. I really was. I'm a naturally shy person.
Right.
So I would. It's something it would be like me being not knowing how to swim and go, yeah, I'm gonna be a famous surfer. Like it's not gonna happen, right? So I never thought I could ever do comedy, ever, ever, ever. But I admired comedians. So when I did that open mic first time, I did it just as a dare, kind of, and then I did it a couple more times. I think I did open mic only 3 times, and then I stopped for like 2 years, and then I did it again. But I did it because I wanted to hang out with comics. I didn't think I was a comic. I didn't think I could be a comic. But if I do open mics, I can hang out with comics, right?
Right. Always.
So yeah, and of course it was open mic comics, which I wouldn't have learned anything anyway from. But it was, but I felt good hanging out with these guys, right? And it felt bad when they wouldn't help me, or it would feel bad if they blew me off or made fun of one of my jokes.
Right.
And I always told myself, I'm never gonna do that. I'm never gonna do that. That's why I'm very open, like to comedians. I have comedians. I give them my phone number and they call me and I give them advice. I'll watch a set and I'll tell them what I think. But sometimes I'm real honest, so it's really.
It's painful, and sometimes they don't want to hear it.
And there's one guy. I'm not gonna mention his name, but one guy. He came to see me. I met him like out of town somewhere in Colorado, somewhere I don't remember. So he came to see me at the Haha because he was in town. And I'm like, hey, where you staying? He goes, well, I was staying with my friend's house, but his girlfriend didn't want me there, so now I'm just in my car. I'm like, oh. So I'm like, how long are you in town for? He goes, just for 2 more days. I'm like, look, just stay with me then, because I feel like bad, right? So so the next day. I wake up and we're talking, and he goes, hey, you want to see one of my sets? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll see it. And I watched it, and this comedian he's deaf, so which doesn't mean anything but when you're deaf, you have to be even a little better because
of course
because you have a speech impediment, which is like a heavy accent. She talks, but it's very hard.
I know how it is. I work with them.
And I watched him set, and there's nothing I could say other than, dude, this was horrible. I go, it was horrible, man. I go, it's not funny. And I felt so bad saying that, because normally I like to start off with the good news. I go,
Always.
This was great, and this is this. And I go, but
there was
with
nothing
him,
there?
There was nothing there. It was really, really
nothing
bad.
there.
And I was like, oh, my God. So now I'm like, all right, I opened up a bag. Now I'm sitting with him like for a day and a half, helping him with material. And I'm like, I should have said he was great. Yeah, it was wonderful. I love it. Right. So I won't make that mistake again. But anyway, it's crazy, but I'm open to people, like it's because look, I'm not I think I'm quasi famous. You know what I mean? I'm known in some worlds, and it's so funny because
you're a celebrity.
No, but you know what? I really don't think so. But then things happen like this. One time, I was in Sizzlers in Hollywood on, I think it was Vine or Highland or whatever, but it was at the Sizzler, and this big tour bus with all these Asians stops and comes in, and this one lady who was running the tour comes up to me. She goes, "Excuse me, can I bother you?" I'm like, "No, it's all right." He goes, "This gentleman and his wife recognized you from Vietnam." I'm like, "What?"
Get out!
I'm the first American to headline Vietnam. I didn't know that until I got there. They told me that. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." Yeah, it was a sold out show. It was great. But so they recognized me from Vietnam. I'm like, no, like, are you sure? Like, I almost thought they were doing a prank or something. And then when he said Vietnam, I'm like, oh yeah, I was there. I was in Vietnam, and so they took pictures, and that was cool. And I'm
then
like,
you realized.
Yeah, what do you got? And same thing. I was at the Santa Monica Apple Store once, and again, this young Asian couple came up to me, and it's perfect English. They go, "Hey man, we saw you in Malaysia." And I'm like, oh, were you there on vacation? They go, no, we live there. I'm like, what? What are you doing here? Like, we're on vacation. Perfect English, though. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. All right, cool. So I'm huge. I'm huge with all the busboys in America, and I'm huge with all the Asians in Asia.
And you have a new group that's coming up. After the show, we're going to have you take a picture, if you don't mind, with a few young cats.
Yeah, of course.
And why I needed you is because I'm trying to give a new direction to comedians who are like, no, I have to feel it my way. I have to do it my way. And you know what? Vulgarity is just not funny. It's
Yeah.
been done.
You know, it's funny. If you look this up, and you could look it up, Gabriel Iglesias said the best advice he ever got from anyone was from me, which I told him. I said, work clean. Because when I first saw him, he literally was like Sam Kinison. He was dirty and angry. And I'm like, Gabriel, and he was a lot younger then. I go,
Yeah.
Gabriel, you're like adorable, dude.
Right.
You got this. I go, it's you. Your act doesn't fit you. I go, if you don't curse, and it forces you to write better, and it forces you to, and it'll make you work
Stronger,
anywhere. Yeah,
period.
you can work anywhere. You can do whatever. So he always worked clean ever since then.
I
So
am so
to this
glad.
day, he still announces that. He goes, Joey Medina gave me the best advice ever, and it's true.
But it really is.
Yeah, for all you comics, you could always dirty it up if you want.
Always.
And there's times you want to, and there's times you don't want to. I always read, like, my act. I literally can do my entire act the same way, clean or rated R.
Right,
The
me
same
too.
act. It's the same act.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's just,
I'm-
and it's you know the way it is. It's literally like
Twisting a word.
yeah, and it's like having a party when we have parties or we have guests over our house, right? Depending on the crowd, our behavior changes, right? Am I right?
Absolutely.
If you're having dinner with your friend's parents, you're not gonna
Offer them
you're
a
not-
joint.
Yeah, you're not gonna curse, right? You probably will say all the same stories you would say with when they're not there, except without all the dirty words, right? So, but then if you're hanging out with your friends your age or whatever, then you're gonna say whatever you want. So it's kind of like that's the way I am on stage. It's like I read the audience, and then I know how far I can go, or what I could use, what I can't use.
I like to know where these new rules have started since the pandemic that I've been finding a lot about light-skinned comics and dark-skinned comics, and if you have a white parent, you can't use the N-word. I just don't know why there's so much power given to that.
Yeah, and then, what's so funny though, and like I have to, I'm trying to be careful because I'm Puerto Rican from the Bronx. I use the N-word a lot.
It's like
And
they grew up with it.
Yeah,
that's what they are. They're from the Bronx.
And everyone in New York knows that. Like there's no difference. Like there's
no difference.
There's really
None.
no difference. And it's so when I drink, my New Yorkness comes out. And then, like, Russell Peters loves, like, when he takes me on the road, he always gets me drunk. And then he's like, oh, watch this. And then all of a sudden it starts coming out. I goes, I knew it.
That's just a whole different, that's how we were.
Yeah, it doesn't, you don't mean it, like, in
It's a
any
brotherhood.
way. Yeah, it's just, that's how you
the
talk
brotherhood. That's
growing
how
up
it was.
in New York.
And now there's these new rules by comedians who have never been on a stage 25 times except on a Zoom, who are telling me how to be politically correct.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be repetitive with the story. Did I tell you already what happened to me on Clubhouse? I was having a fabulous time on.
You said one time
names,
you
no
logged
names.
no name, but you logged off, but you didn't log off. Was that story?
Is that horrible?
Yeah.
To hear the same people that make believe they like you after you get one in and make sure you get another one in on a female show when she doesn't fit my look. Because, when I used to do those shows, I was glammed out.
Right.
I used to really take it to the nine. But to hear people saying such horrible things about me, and all I've ever done was support women and other comedians.
But think about it. It's like people who hate like that only hate people who are more successful than them. Nobody ever hates people who are less successful.
That's Tiffany. Let me tell you this. Tiffany Haddish was telling me, Sunda, look what you got going on. Look what they have going on. I was like, no, they're on television. They're working.
Yeah, but it's just
It's a difference of mindset, probably.
Yeah, it's also some people feel the only way to stay on top is to bring other people down, and that is
the worst way.
worst way to do it. Right? People have done it that way, and I've seen it, and I've seen it many times. But it's like there's an old saying that I like. It says, when you become successful, instead of building a taller fence, build a longer table.
Yeah.
And I totally believe that. Like Kevin Hart has that same mentality. The way he takes care of his friends and his group, and not just takes care of them. He, if one of them wants to be a writer, they write for him. If one of them wants to be a director or producer, they produce or direct for him. He gives them the opportunity because he's a good friend, and he shares his. I was watching his documentary series about him, And one day he bought all these vintage cars, and he had his friends come out, and they all had their name on one of the cars, and he bought them all a brand new vintage car. And I'm like, God damn, I need better friends, right? Like, how come I don't got a friend like that?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. So, and I love that kind of story. Like
Me
that's
too.
like
Camaraderie, real
yeah.
camaraderie.
And like for instance, if I was ever in that position, that's what I would do. I mean, when I was making a lot of money, I
Used to spend a lot of money,
yeah,
Joey.
I spent a lot of my bottle service, having my friends,
Tipping
hanging
all the
out,
time.
tipping, all of this stuff, and it's just like, you know, obviously.
Even bought me a drink.
Oh, there you go. I'm sorry.
And I was like, I'm a
I should
comic.
watch more. No, but like my thing is that I'm always generous, even when I don't have anything, which is probably most of the time, and but it's like, cause I don't care, you know. It's like,
Hey,
yeah,
like, look, we could be where Marilyn Martinez is.
yeah,
we
poor
were
Marilyn.
saying wonderful things about her. She was one of the funniest women in Latino comedy.
Yeah, she's a funny person altogether. And if you ever wanted your personal business to go out to the world, you didn't have to put it on Facebook. You didn't have to send. Just tell Marilyn, and it would be out there.
No. But first, you have to tell Marilyn, don't tell anybody. She's like, Mita, no. When?
And Marilyn is so funny because I always knew, man, it's gonna come out.
It's gonna
Marilyn
come out,
knows.
man.
So I was never mad because I'm like that.
That's
and I never should have
Marilyn.
told her.
That was love.
Yeah.
That was love, and we have such love. And I got to tell you, Joey, I wish that I could have you out here when I have the classes back in sessions. When I don't even call them classes, it's just some people can't get on stage. Now, you didn't know this about me, but I started out in a workshop with Jim Gaffigan. Lena Dunham also did this workshop. It was a stand-up comedy workshop because my first experience was with a black audience, and I said I would never do it again. They threw me on a stage, and they were horrible to me in Newark. Horrible. Bitch, we can't even hear you. Bitch. So I'm like, what are you, in the champagne crowd or the champagne crowd? So that wasn't good. Do you remember Vaughn Harper from WBLS?
Oh, I remember WBLS.
That is, he was the deep. He was the one with the deep voice.
Oh, okay.
The Quiet Storm.
Okay, yeah. I don't remember I didn't remember his name, but I remember that. The Quiet Storm.
Storm.
Yeah.
Quiet Storm.
Yeah, that's how I used to make my mixtapes for girls. I would just record that.
Yes.
Quiet Storm was all the love songs.
Oh.
Come on, some more Keith Sweat. Yes.
Oh yes, he had a really sexy voice, and he just recently passed away. But he was the one that came on stage and took me off and said, "You never insult your audience." And I said to him, "I'm not a comedian.
Right.
I teach the dancercise program here. I was teaching a dance class, hanging out with Tommy Marola. All right, having fun in New Jersey." And then it was Jackie Mason that got me. I met him at a party. He thought I was a comic.
He was great. Jackie Mason was great.
Great.
He's one of the first people I would buy specials on VHS when I first started doing stand-up. And one of the specials I bought was Jackie Mason on Broadway. Yeah.
So funny. And I'm so sorry that he and Shane has a strange relationship. You know, he has a daughter, and it's so funny because he says it's not his, but it looks like Jackie with a weave. She looks like her father. And out of all the spawn of comics, I have to tell you that she is the funniest.
Oh, wow, cool.
It's not often that you can be a comedian and give birth to a comedian.
Right.
Like, I don't know if Melissa Rivers will ever be her mother.
No, never.
Never. There's only one Joan.
Yeah.
There was only one Joan.
And I think that's the problem when athletes or actors or comedians, when their children try to live up to their expectations. You got to have your own thing. Now, sometimes you can be better. Sometimes you can be similar. But many times you're just worse. I remember Joe Frazier used to have a son named Marvis Frazier, right, who was a professional boxer. And the problem, if you guys remember Joe Frazier back in the day, you could look it up. But he beat Muhammad Ali, the first person to ever beat Muhammad Ali. And but Muhammad Ali beat him after.
That's
but
right.
Anyway, he all he did was come forward, and he took a good punch, and he gave a good punch. And Marvis Frazier fought the same way. He came forward, except he couldn't hit hard, and he didn't take a good punch. So, which is the worst style to have when you he would get knocked out because he would just come right in, but he wasn't hitting hard, and you hit him once and he falls. So it was like he just did not do well. But you could tell he did it probably because of his dad. He looked like his dad, had the same build.
Had it all going, right?
Yeah, but
my
he
kids don't
wasn't
wanna
a good
do it.
fighter.
But they do it now. Would you believe it? They go up. My one
Really?
kid, can I tell you, I have one kid that can run my class.
That's great.
She has all my notes.
How
She
old is
knows
she?
everything. She is 18, and the other one is 19.
Okay.
And the youngest one got passed by Masada when she was 11 and never went back.
Oh.
Never went back on stage. I said, you know what that means, honey? I go, that means you can go on stage. She goes, I don't want to do this, Mama. And I said, it's just a nice thing for you to have
Right.
because it helps you communicate with people. That's what I'm trying to work on now is what's coming out my way
Mhm.
is people in the Latino community who have a communication problem. Their parents don't speak perfect English. They feel funny talking and they're just on the phones.
Right.
And I
Right.
think stand-up comedy could do something, and that's what I'm trying to do is trying to get kids from downtown, from from Compton in here. I'm trying to get a grant going because we're not bad. I was a bad kid.
Mhm.
I wasn't suspended. I was expelled. I was not allowed to return to my school. I
Right.
wasn't bad. I was making jokes as a
Right.
Catholic
Right.
school back then, you know.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, they didn't, molest me. They beat the shit out of me. But that's a need. I believe that comedy is really necessary to help people open up. I think comedy is a wonderful common denominator to help people feel comfortable. And I just think that you are a wonderful role model in so many
Thank you.
ways
Thank
that you
you.
don't
So are
even know
you.
about.
I mean, look, if like I'm not a perfect person. I'm very flawed, but when I can be a good role model, I try to be a good role model. I try to, you know, adv- one thing I have a philosophy to always be kind, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's it's just not like you just don't have the time for it because too many people aren't, and you could tell like there's a bunch of younger comics that have hit me up, and some are I could tell like I'm not going to give them energy because it's just their
Right.
vibe is wrong. But then there's others they just want to learn. Like there was this kid, just now I did his podcast last week, and it was his first podcast. He had a similar studio, but it was downtown, hard to find parking. But
I gave you your own
but
space.
but he was like telling me how growing up, he would watch me and all like, and I was like, oh, okay. And then he gave me flowers at the end, and I'm like, oh my god, this is cool, man. So I felt so touched that he had a student like this. I do art every once in a while, and
Oh
so
my
I just
God.
did this one piece that was really beautiful. It's like it's multimedia. It had a 35 millimeter film reel with stickers of all famous movies. Like it was really cool. Like I did it for me,
Wow.
but then I just something just hit me. I go, you know what? I know how to work here. I'm gonna give you something. So I sent him a picture, see if he liked it first of all, and he loved it. And he goes, yeah, yeah. So he drove all the way to my house to pick it up, and I gave it to him, and he showed me a picture. He hung it up in the studio. But that's how I do it because I liked his vibe.
It was
Like
real for you.
yeah, he wanted to really learn, and he really wanted to. Now some people, you could want as much as you want, and it's gonna take you either a very long time or you ain't gonna make it. Right? And
That's it.
yeah, and that's okay. But like I've
True.
seen comics where in 10 years they were great, and I go, dude, man, you've gotten so much better. 10 years later, after that, they're doing the same material, the same thing. They haven't gotten any better. Um, Nothing's changed up at all. And I'm like, dude, you just stopped
I
growing.
do the same material. I just change my voices.
Well, there you go. At least you changed it. They don't change it. No, trust me. I still have some of my own material, but what I do is I
Mix it up.
recycle. I
Mix it
recycle.
up.
I mix up.
Yeah.
I rebuilt it.
I know.
You know,
I can
I
imagine.
rebuild jokes all the time because now I'm a better. When I wrote a joke, let's say 10 years ago,
Right.
I'm a better writer now. So I could take that same premise and just rewrite it and make it a brand new joke. And all it is just the concept is the same, but it's a complete different joke because I'm a better writer now. You know what I mean? So it's like being a filmmaker, right? The first thing I ever shot, I thought was great when I first did it. Now I'm embarrassed to tell anybody like to even look at it, but I'm a better filmmaker now. So it's like, it's just I can take an idea I had before and make it better.
You know what I'd like to do, Joey? I
Mhm.
also paint. I don't talk about
Oh, cool.
this
All
often,
right.
but I happen to have met my husband in his art gallery when I
Oh,
was doing a
nice.
show with Mark Coppola, who is which
Is he one
Coppola
of
is
the
that?
Coppolas?
Yeah.
Right.
And he's a DJ.
Oh, okay.
He's the DJ.
All right.
Mark Coppola. He's Nicolas Cage's brother.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I was in a serious play, and whatever happened, I turned it into a comedy, but it was at an art gallery. And I wanted to do something here where we make artwork, and we're going to sell it or whatever, or donate it for whatever. We should be doing that. We should have comedians should have their art. I have Phyllis Diller's art. I purchased her
Oh,
art.
wow, that's
She was
dope.
an artist, and she was a poet, and she had her poetry written, and I spent over. I don't want to talk about it. And Kate Rigg got me into it. Kate told me, Phyllis isn't doing well. I worked with Phyllis, not when she was born, guys. I'm not that old. But ironically, her headshot was taken by the same photographer that did my headshot. And Mary Wilson. Everybody's dead but me. His name was Mark Raboy. And I say that because there's something intrinsically creative within all of us, and I would love to do that where we could sell
Oh,
our
yeah, it's a great
artwork.
idea, yeah.
It's a great idea. Who else is going to have an autograph? Listen, imagine if we had an autograph piece of like Richard Pryor.
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing. Like yeah, I would buy something like that. In a
Right,
heartbeat.
Jamie Masada would steal it from us, but
Yeah,
because he
that's
really
right.
loves this stuff. I mean,
Right.
I got him so many old. I
Oh,
mean,
cool.
I got him so many things, those antiques like that. And I think the state of comedy today, I hope to God that we can still be funny and make fun of our differences without hate.
Yes.
Because I'm told now that I can't do this joke, you can't do that joke.
Yeah. So far, I haven't heard anybody tell me anything. Thank God. But yeah, I was doing a show in Florida a few months ago, and the opening act, he did. I guess he said something that somebody got offended, and I forgot what it was.
Oh, God.
But so they kicked him off the show because he said something.
Just
But the
like
thing was,
that.
it wasn't even that bad. 'Cause I even told the owner, I go,
serious?
yeah, I go, dude, and I forgot what it was. I can't remember.
It's like that?
But yeah, but I'm like, dude, it wasn't that bad what he said. Because I'm thinking, I've said worse that weekend. I don't know, maybe because I'm the headliner, but like I just, it's just. But I'm smart. Like, I know how to say something and get away with it.
Exactly.
Because I've been doing this for 100 years, right? And it's
Honest to God.
yeah, it's the same way. Like if a guy comes up to you, right?
Right.
If a guy comes up to a woman, single woman, whatever, and try hits on her.
It happens
Depending,
still, believe it or
but
not.
depending what they say, like they could say the same exact thing, and one person you would say pervert,
Right.
the other guy you'd be like, oh really? It
Right.
just depends on how it's done. It depends on intention. You're like, oh, okay, I'm not offended by that. And there's times you should be offended. If somebody comes up to you and says good morning, you're gonna go, hey, good morning. But if somebody just comes up to you and goes, good morning, you'd be like, no, what do you mean good morning? Like, what do you mean by that? Right? And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with humor, and it's the same thing how to say things. And I'm lucky I've never gotten in trouble. And anytime somebody's ever come up to me, and it's maybe happened maybe twice, 3 times in my life, they go, hey, I didn't like this joke, and I always explain it, and I always listen to what they say, and I explain my version. And
Do you
we'll
know who
take it
came
from there.
after me?
Who?
Jehovah's Witnesses
What?
at Stand Up New York.
Why?
I was having a crazy day. They were telling me
What are
this.
they even doing there?
That's my point.
Right? They don't go to those things.
So
Right.
you're around. So they said we were drinking soft drinks and we had food, and we didn't like what you said. I made a joke that the Jehovah's Witnesses, only
Yeah,
122,000
yeah, I have
can
something
get,
similar, yeah.
and I'm hoping that they have an affirmative action program so my mom gets in. So I'm from a whole family of Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay,
So
I'm
you're offended by that?
Yeah,
Why?
because I
That's
made the
funny.
song. Someone's
Oh,
knocking at
okay.
the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. Do me a favor. Don't open the door. Don't let him in. Nothing's worse than you thinking it's Kenny the Coke dealer.
That's
And
right.
it's Sister Patrice saying, Sugar,
Yeah.
we got to do the Bible study today. And you're like, is there somebody behind you? I hear a noise. Yeah,
They were
that was the
offended?
80s. Offended and
How
came
could you
up to
offend
me.
you?
I put them on the phone with my mother and she fixed it.
Oh, that's cool.
That's what you do. You put JW with JW. And I paid $50 for this joke to say that I was in Jehovah's Witness Protection Program and came out
funny.
here and someone stole that from me as quickly as anything.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can see somebody taking that.
Yeah. Stealing
But-
jokes is so sad, and to be accused of stealing.
Oh, that's even worse. And it's funny because I've been accused, not majorly, but just on specific things. And
Come on.
this actually 2 years ago.
I would love to hear one thing. I'll back you
And it
up.
wasn't. I'll tell you a story. No, trust me. I take this business extremely serious.
Yes.
So, when you do the Laugh Factory, they'll put up your clips, right? Sometimes on their thing. So I did 3 jokes, and it was funny. All freaking 3. I did more than 3 jokes, but 3 jokes. They put them online, and one person says, "Oh, that's what's his name? Nate something. He's big now, but I never heard of him. I didn't know who he was." And I'm like, who? And I look it up, and he had a joke almost word for word. And I don't think he stole it from me, because I never seen him, so I don't know who he is. I definitely didn't steal from him. I never met him. But the joke was about the jokes. Actually, mine was better. But
Of course.
But he said, he goes, why go to a gym? Just tell people, just wear a T-shirt that says you just lost 300 pounds or something like that. So I have a joke like that. I don't go to the gym because I feel there's pressure going to the gym. because it's a nightclub, so everybody looks at you like, what is he doing here? So I go, so to relieve the pressure, when I go to a gym, I just wear a shirt that says I just lost 300 pounds. I go, now people come up to me like, oh my God, that's so amazing. You look so great. I go, now I'm the mayor at the gym. I just walk around high-fiving everybody. That's my joke. My joke's more detailed. But so he has that one line, and I'm like, I sell shirts already. I can't not do this joke.
Your
so
merch.
I won't do it in L.A. because he's more popular than I am right now. So I won't do it in L.A., but I do it on the road. But it's my joke. I wrote that joke.
So please
I know
tell
I wrote
me,
that joke.
while we're all watching with Joey Medina, who do you remember did the original nail salon joke?
Oh, was it you, right? That's right.
But no, now I've stolen it from Seinfeld, Angela Johnson.
Yeah.
I did it first.
Yeah, I remember you doing that before Angela ever started doing comedy.
Thank you.
And that's true. I mean, facts are facts.
Facts are facts.
Yeah.
And Johnny Sanchez can I tell you something? Me and Johnny don't work together, but boy, did he back me up. Someone had called me when he was on Mad TV and Bobby Lee. And they were saying, stop that. She doesn't steal. That's her life, and that's her bit.
Yeah.
And that's my bit. So I'm in Reno at the Laugh Factory, and her family came to meet me. They were her cousins. They just wanted to know which one was doing her routine. I said, sweetheart, first of all, it's called a bit.
Right.
I said, second of all, your cousin didn't have her period when I was doing that joke. They ended up to be the nicest people, gave me a beautiful ring. They loved me. I loved them. I stayed in touch, and I wish all the best for that girl.
Good.
I do hate to hear that I stole something that I totally did myself. And
Right.
guess what we recently found, Jean and I?
What?
I did it on the Jerry Lewis telethon in the 90s, but I'm too
Nice.
embarrassed
There
to
you go.
put it up because that's before social media.
No, you should put it up.
I should, right?
Yeah. And the thing is this, it's like at first when
How'd you feel when that happened? Yeah, but go ahead.
when that happened, like with her or me or like
Well, just go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, with her, like this is the way I did learn this lesson. I taught myself this lesson when I first started doing stand up. There was a comic who ended up getting some deal that he was a horrible comic. He was a hack. He wasn't a good comic at all. And I remember being upset because I remember saying this guy got something he didn't deserve. But then I thought for a second, I go, you know what? I hope I get something I don't deserve one day. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not mad at him no more. So the way I see it because I had Angela Johnson on my show and I asked her this. Like, the way I see it is this. What is she supposed to do? Say no? Like, all of a sudden, one of her bits goes viral, even though it's not an original what is she supposed to say? No, I don't want the success.
Exactly.
Duh, you got to. It's like Rocky. It's like he wasn't ready for the title, but they gave him the shot, so he took it, right?
Take it.
You got to take the shot. And it's like, and people get bitter, people get upset. Trust me, I understand. I felt some of that as well. But I'm like, who cares? That's her thing. Good for her,
And I wasn't angry.
Yeah, and she had a lot of issues. Like, meaning it took her a long time to get the time. Because that's what I asked her on the show when she was on my show. I'm like, because I know she had writers, and she didn't want to really talk about the writers. But I'm like, who cares? It is what it is.
Yeah.
You're in the spot. Take it, milk it, and
Right.
call it what it is.
Right.
And even with that bit, like, I don't know, I have never seen her defend a bit or anything, but just say, hey, look, I either got it from somebody or something. Look, I was just doing an open mic, and it worked out for me, whatever. Who cares, man? It's just.
But don't say I took it.
Yeah, she shouldn't do that. It's like me. Like, I've never thought anyone took my stuff except a couple of people. And the only reason I say I know they took it, or I very suspect them strongly, is because they were in the room.
Night? They were in the room
when I did
That's
that joke. And the way I see it is, they had that joke as well, because we all have very similar jokes in comics. They would have came up to me and go, hey, just so you know, I do a bit just like that. Because you saw me here. I want you to know. Because that's what I do. If I have a real similar bit, I go up to you, just so you know, I have a bit, and this is the way it goes. Because I don't want you to go, I saw Joey last week, and he's doing a bit now.
And we don't want a Dane Cook breakdown.
Right. So I always, if I see something's doing, I'll let them know.
Yeah.
This
is just like, I have to tell you something. We should be doing more things about comedy, and hopefully we should do something together on Clubhouse also, because you've given a wonderful retrospective of comedy from now to, hey, listen, we're going to see what's going to happen now. That's exactly what we're going to do. And I hope you come here and support the comedians. When I say support, like, go up. And, like, man, maybe you can tell them, like, that joke's been done. Like, stop it. No more Beaner. No more wetback.
Right. And I'm glad I'm seeing that fade, But with the newer comics, that's all they go to.
Why?
Cause they want to stick up. I'm like, no, you don't need to do that no
And
more.
what's this eating butt stuff?
No, well, yeah, that is a new thing, and it's funny
not
because,
new. We've been doing it since
yes,
the
we've been
70s.
doing it, but on stage, like, it's funny because,
I'm sorry, 80s.
I'll do eating butt stuff if I see someone else do it, because then I'll call all their shit back and
Right.
I'll make it even funnier.
Right, of course.
But, it's like I always like, what was it? Somebody was talking about eating ass. I was doing a private party at a wine tasting thing, and some comic was talking about eating ass, and people were laughing and talking about it. So I'm like, all right, well, I have to talk. So I got up there and I forgot what I said, but I said something like, I always eat ass, but never on a Wednesday. And I go, and so why? I go, because Taco Tuesday. It comes on after Taco Tuesday, and I'm not going to eat no one's ass after Taco Tuesday. And I forgot what it was. I was just making stuff up, but it was so funny. I'm like, oh my God, that's funny.
Oh my God.
So now that's always in the back of my mind if I ever have to use it again. But
well, you know, we got a lot to do.
Yeah,
We're going to be doing a lot more together. I
hope
can't
so.
wait.
I've always respected you. Always respect you. You're a hard worker, and to me, I'm very impressed when I see a hard worker. But I'm also doubly impressed when I see a hard worker who happens to be a woman or someone who's got other things with a disability or any other kind of issue that's blocking them from being more successful.
Like kids.
Kids, right? It's hard, man. It's hard to do what we do. It's hard to be a comedian. And it's even harder to be a successful comedian. And then it's even harder to stay successful.
To sustain it.
Because many of us have touched, fame. And many of us have touched some success. But then it just starts. It's like stock market. Numbers go down again.
It's always changing.
Some people are lucky enough where
they're recession proof.
Yeah, where all of a sudden they build on top of it. Kevin Hart, perfect example.
Right.
Perfect example. And everything he has, well deserved. But he is a perfect example. He's producing things.
Tiffany Haddish as well.
Yeah, because that's the way you do it. Tiffany has worked really, really hard. And even though people say, it's she came out of nowhere, I'm like, no,
that's not true.
She was always there. She's just working her ass off.
Yes.
And that's one thing I always respected about her. And that's what you have to do. You got to create your own stuff. You got to have. I remember when I got that radio gig, and I remember telling my manager, I'm like, I need something else this big, because if I lose this money, I'm screwed, man. And I go, I can't. I'm off the road a lot now because of the radio show.
Because of the show.
I'm still doing radio. I'm making more money. I mean, still doing shows, making more money even now because of the radio. But I'm doing less of them. And I'm like, it's going to take me a long time, man, to recoup this money. And I go, I need another big gig. So that's what you need to do. Once you have some success, you gotta build more. You can't. The last thing, anybody watching, the last thing you want to do if you get success is sit back and relax.
Be comfortable.
Be comfortable, because that chair will be taken right underneath you, and you're going to be like, what am I going to do? Work even harder. Use that momentum for you. You know what I mean? Nobody, for instance, it's easy. You know how they say it's easy to get a job once you have a job?
It's right.
Right. It's the same thing. If you have success, if you have a show, if you're popular, if you're an actor on a TV show or in a movie, work harder now, because you want to keep that going. Don't take a break. Look, you can enjoy your success for a little bit. And thank you. Buy your mama a house. Do whatever you gotta do.
Right. Take a week off.
But you got to work hard, because if you don't work hard, you're going to lose it. And then that's it. And then nobody wants to work with somebody who used to be somebody.
That's right. And you can't be, you used to be.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what you can do. You can follow Joey Medina.
Yes, you can.
And I know he's on Clubhouse under Joey Medina,
Yes.
But what else?
Instagram, Joey Medina Comic. Also, Facebook, Joey Medina Comic. And where else? Twitter, Joey Medina Comic. And then I think it's Comic Boxer on Snapchat. But that's just for dick pics. So.
And I'm going to have this. Okay, so now this manager is coming back from this other boxing thing he's doing.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
Right, because Joey has fans, so that's why I have to wrap up this talk show. This talk show has been on the go. We're having Joey back because we need him back, and I got to let his fans inside because we are COVID compliant. Just to let you know, we have had this all sprayed, aired out. We have our filters, and we're all negative. And I really want to thank you, Joey, for being here. I love you, man.
My pleasure. I love you too. And
I love you.
I'm always proud of your work, and I'm really impressed what you've done here, and I love it. And I think it's going great.
And I love it. We need more Puerto Ricans out here. Conga!
Boricua!
Boricua! This talk show's on the go. Sigue, sigue, chocolate, la abusadora.
Oh, look at this.